Overtown is one of my favorite places in Miami because it is so rich in history. This is where Black people were mandated to live because Miami was segregated. So you didn't have a choice. You lived in Colored Town.
I grew up in Overtown, and it was a very pleasant experience. I felt love from my neighbors. I felt love from my teachers. I felt love from my church members.
It just seems like it was so vibrant and thriving. And when all of the Black people were segregated to this area, in a lot of places in America where Black people have been segregated, they become ghettos. And it looks like this place is just this like beautiful amalgamation of people and immigrants coming there and supporting each other and getting a good education. Just wonderful. Obviously, the history there is troubling. The KKK presence there, trying to prevent Blacks from voting, all of it. But I also love the response that, like, that year that they had that effigy being taken through the streets was when they had the biggest voter turnout. And just the resistance and the resilience is always so inspiring and moving to me. And I just love getting to learn about this.
This is about Black history and diving into the era of segregation in Miami and the existence that has become Overtown. Diving into the world of what it was like to be Black in the 1920s, 30s in an area of the US, how you had to get creative just to get a job. Diving into the attachments and connections to such highly regarded individuals, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali. These core organizations and moments in history happens at this central location. And they're making moves to make sure places like the Hampton House aren't destroyed. The first draft of the I Have a Dream speech was written here, for instance. And so they have this fight to not have the Hampton House be torn down and dive into fighting towards revitalization in Black neighborhoods. How do you fight the developers directing an attack on history itself? Black history is delicate, and in the sense so much has been taken from them and destroyed from them. And even in this documentary, they mention a lack of hope for this dream of revitalization. Yet they still continue to fight and build for their community despite these challenges thrown at them, diving into how not all great things come out of gentrification.
That this town was historically a segregated town in Miami, and it has this unique, deep history with Black culture and even Black celebrity. And when we discuss the Hampton House, especially, that is very apparent there, which is why I was shocked to see that there was, a fight at a particular time to maintain that statement of legacy and, create this museum space so that it was protected. Once you kind of get a sense of the town, and this documentary paints the picture of the town for you, it shifts its focus to revitalization and how that ties to losing the heritage and the history. And that's the concept I definitely understand. Lived in Harlem, right in the height of revitalization, and you just kind of can see how your neighborhood shifts right before your eyes, all in the purposes of making it better, but meanwhile getting rid of all the things that make it. And it really points out how developers take advantage of a community, and the community that lives there doesn't actually benefit from all of these new developments. It's really all based on greed And I love how passionate everyone that was featured in this documentary was. You can see how passionate they were about the community, especially the older woman who spoke the most within the Hampton House and kind of gave the overlying history. But everyone had such passion for this, which made me passionate about it as well.
And that short amount of time gives us so much information, concise, precise, to the point, and gives us the story and a really good broad understanding of everything about Overtown. And it's just so nicely done. And I'm from Florida myself, and I've spent some time in South Florida. I didn't know about any of this history, so it was especially nice for me to learn this about my home state. Yeah, I mean, all the interviews were conducted so well. Everybody on camera did such a nice job communicating. Bravo to the interviewers and the interviewees for making that happen. It was nicely edited together, wonderful imagery, nice use of stock photos and things. They did a lot of research to pull all this together. I'm sure it was just a massive amount of work to put the 7-minute film together. Just a massive amount of work. So I'm happy that this has been done, because, like I said, I learned something new about my home state that I didn't know. But great job on this. And it's sad to hear at the end about the development efforts failing, and corporate interests coming in and ruining things. So I hope that turns around. I hope that the cultural legacy is kept and restored.
Learning about this kind of culture, learning about this kind of city within, or this kind of area within Florida and within Miami, is so, so interesting to me. And, I think that them fighting for, not having it rejuvenated, not having it, torn down and kind of covered up, I think is great, because, learning about history in the books is great, it's fascinating, but there's such value to being able to go to a place and connect what you've learned or what you're currently learning with a physical place. And, you have historic sites, and you have, historic parks and historic monuments, and, all these things. And there's just something different about being able to be in a place that you've learned about, or being able to go to a place and learn about the history while you're standing there. And I think there's something so valuable about that. And it just connects in a different way. And it just kind of, I think, carries a different meaning. And with such rich history and such rich culture that all kind of came out of this place, I think there's such value in not only keeping it, fighting for it, but spreading that knowledge and that history as much as you can.
I really like the overall story behind the Hampton House, and how this place is a symbol of this little community in America. A simple motel that is not actually that simple, because it hosted so many famous and important and influential celebrities for the African American community, but for the whole world as well, like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali. It was very interesting to learn what happened in this motel, how important it used to be, and how important it still is, and how these communities try to preserve the motel and its symbols, and the importance that this motel has. So on top of that, I really liked how the film is structured, and the usage of B-rolls and interviews. I think it was also very compelling, and never too heavy to watch.
It shows a rich history of Overtown. I love stories about rich history. I think history should be preserved, especially ones like this where it built a community. This hotel, the Hampton Hotel, is something I had never heard about. You would think that's something they should have taught in schools, but they didn't. It sounds like it was a very important part of Black history, American history. It's not taught, so I enjoyed learning about it. It's sounds like a town with a very, very, very rich history, and it's something that should be shared and explored everywhere where it's shown, and that the hotel especially, should be restored. Not revitalized, just restored to its former glory to make it what it was like in its heyday. It makes it stand and become a tourist attraction. Why it's not a national or a state landmark